The first 20-win team in over 20 years for FIU women's basketball closes out the season ahead of the conference tournament.
Inter Miami plays without Lionel Messi for the first time this season.
And on the mound, FIU's baseball squad meets with rival FAU midway through the 2024 season. All of this and more on the Sideline. Hello, South Florida, and welcome to the Sideline, the place where you get all the highlights for your South Florida teams. I'm Carlton Gillespie.
I'm Kenneth Bueno, and the Sideline starts now. With the conference tournament in mind, the FIU's women's basketball team isn't done making history just yet.
Sideline's own Anthony Cruz was live earlier today from the Ocean Bank Convocation Center to tell us how the third-seeded Panthers will fare in the Conference USA tournament.
The FIU women's basketball team is getting ready to travel all the way up to Huntsville, Alabama for the Conference USA tournament. Entering as the third seed, the FIU Panthers will look to cap off a very special season with a tournament win.
As seen by Olivia Trice's electrifying end to the season this weekend, it's taken all hands on deck for the Panthers to get to the top of Conference USA. Maya Kone, a sophomore transfer from James Madison that blossomed into FIU's leading scorer, says that the effort the team gives day in and day out is what got them to this point.
We said we're going to be some dogs. We're going to fight, and you can see that obviously when we're playing, we just want to hold each other accountable and make each other better and empty our tanks every game and give our best every game.
It was not an easy path to the top for the Panthers. However, despite a 3-4 start to the season and injuries to two key starters, their belief in each other never faltered. And they never stopped having fun. Kalia Henderson, the vocal leader of the squad, says that there is reason behind the madness.
I just feel like being me, it just brings more energy. It just allows everybody else to be more comfortable and more confident in themselves. I'm gonna be with you. Like I tell you, go get a bucket. So I just want to be that person for them. It doesn't have to be scoring. I just want to be there and be productive.
The Panthers know that their road to winning the Conference USA tournament will be tough. Not only would they have to get past the undefeated Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, but they are also set to face a scrappy New Mexico State team that beat them on Saturday in the first round. Nevertheless, Coach Burks believes that those losses throughout the year have only worked to further build the chip that her squad carries on its shoulders.
They're so incredibly competitive, and so when you have a group that's that competitive, you look back in time like that and you just know to yourself, they're holding on to that moment and they're looking forward to the next one. So that for us, I think has been the changing thing is, I think we have way more depth this year, but I think just mentally, we're so much more prepared for these moments too.
FIU's quarterfinal matchup against New Mexico State is set to tip off at 3 p.m. on Thursday. They will look to show the entire nation that they are truly not for everyone. For Kaplan News, I'm Anthony Cruz.
Montreal outlasted Inter Miami 3-2 at the Chase Stadium, which included Messi and his family in the stands. Inter Miami hope to beat Nashville SC in the next match this Wednesday at home and continue to advance in the CONCACAF. Inter Miami goals from Leo Campana, which initially tied the game, and Jordi Alba, which cut the deficit in half late, failed to bring home even a point. The match featured 3 former Inter Miami players for Montreal, including Joseph Martinez, who had an assist for the game-winning goal. At home, the final score was Montreal 3, Miami 2.
Last week, the Miami Heat managed to snag a win against the league-worst Detroit Pistons, but since, the team has lost 3 straight, including a loss to league's second-worst team, the Washington Wizards. The Wizards started strong and led by 6 at halftime. Miami rallied back to take the lead by the third quarter, but a late fourth-quarter rally came up short as Duncan Robinson and Jimmy Butler both missed potential game-winning three-pointers in the final seconds. At home, the final score was Washington 110, Miami 108. Miami hosts the Denver Nuggets in a finals rematch Wednesday at 7:30 p.m.
Florida welcomed American open wheel racing to town as the NTT IndyCar Series opened the 2024 season with the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Yesterday, the series raced on the abrasive street course where 2023 Indianapolis 500 winner Joseph Newgarden patrolled 92 of the 100 laps from the pole to get his 3rd career win at the track. Pato O'Ward and Scott McLaughlin completed the top 3. IndyCar heads to the Thermal Club for the $1 Million Challenge before taking on Long Beach next month.
The Panthers got a bounce-back win against the Calgary Flames after a loss at home to Philadelphia. After a scoreless first period, Florida really turned up the heat on the Flames, scoring 4 goals in the second period. They would add another before it was all said and done, putting the Flames away 5-1. New signing Vladimir Tarasenko is already putting in work on the ice for his new team. He had 2 goals in this game and chipped in with an assist. The Panthers head to Dallas to take on the Stars on Tuesday. This past weekend, UFC 299 was held in Miami. It was the promotion's first return to Miami since last year. We've brought on our analyst, Jamie Nunez, to tell us all about it. Give us the blow-by-blow, Jamie. Obviously, the big performance of the night, Sean O'Malley wins a unanimous decision in the main event, dominated the whole fight. Was that the biggest performance of the night, too, or was there someone else who stood out to you?
That was absolutely a huge performance by O'Malley, but what caught my eye, Carlton, didn't actually happen in the main event. It actually happened in the early prelims. Not even the prelims, as Robelis, the Cuban Missile de Spain, knocked out James Parisian inside the first round. And normally his last 4 fights actually have lasted a combined 19 seconds, which is insane to even fathom. But this one lasted in the last few seconds in the first round, but boy oh boy was it a knockout to remember, and it was his UFC debut, so congratulations to Mr. Despain.
It was super chaotic. I remember you showed us a clip several moments ago before we went on the show, and it was just crazy. I was wobbling, taking a bunch of random steps, and knocked him out in just at least maybe 2 or 3 blows. But talk about UFC coming back to Miami. Carlton mentioned it's the first time they returned to South Florida since last April, where it was Israel Adesanya and Pereira going at it for the main card. How big was it this time around, especially since we're approaching UFC 300?
That's right, Kenneth. A lot of fighters put on a great show Saturday night at the Kaseya Center. And just to put it in perspective, Kenneth, UFC 287 with Adesanya and Pereira headlining that one, that was the 6th highest grossing event in UFC history. Now, fast forward to this past Saturday, UFC 299 actually was the 4th highest grossing event ever in UFC history. So it's safe to say, Kenneth, that UFC is here to stay in Miami.
Well, hey, big W for Miami, big W for the UFC all around, and a big loss for anyone who runs into Robelis de Spain. It seems like. Speaking of W's and L, Jamie, let's play a little W and L with you. What was your biggest W this past week in sports?
It's got to go to the Ice Cats, to the Florida Panthers for that matter, and Vladimir Tarasenko. And he did get 3 points. He got two goals and an assist in the match, this most recent match. So that's got to be my biggest W for sure.
Yeah, Tarasenko is such an electric player, and to get him how they did on the cheap, I mean, I'm not saying Stanley Cup or bust, but that certainly seems like what the front office is going to. Kenneth, what's your biggest W?
Well, I'll first say that Tarasenko moving to Florida, you'd imagine that a trade, he would probably take a little bit to get underway, but he's been certainly playing at the top of his game. My biggest W is going to go to one of the stories we ran a little bit earlier, Joseph Newgarden winning the St. Petersburg opener for the NTT IndyCar Series. He led 92 of the 100 laps, and this is when Team Penske's on a roll, right? They won the Indianapolis 500 last year with Newgarden. They won the Rolex 24 this year with Felipe Nasr and that entire squad, and they won the last 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships in a row. So Team Penske, that's my biggest W. They're at the top of the motorsports world right now.
Absolutely, Hugh. What a dominant run they've been on. For me, my biggest W is going to go to Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua absolutely flattened Francis Ngannou overseas this past weekend in the second round, folded him up, and I think that should be a lesson to everybody. The UFC fighters cannot box with boxers. We should stop trying it because genuinely it could be dangerously unsafe. So I hope this is a message to everybody that you don't play boxing, and you certainly don't play with Anthony Joshua. He's a big boy. Well, speaking of L's, Jamie Nunez, what's your biggest L?
So my biggest L, Carlton, has to be to not only Mac Jones, as he was just traded from the New England Patriots to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but all of the New England fans that really thought for a second that Mac Jones was the better Alabama quarterback than not only Tua Tagovailoa, but Jalen Hurts for that matter, you know. So we can put that conversation to rest. Mac Jones, have fun in Jacksonville. And yeah, that's my biggest L.
It is crazy to think how heralded he was as a rookie, and it's just fallen off a cliff for him. Kenneth, what's your biggest L?
Yeah, Mac Jones, it's not a good story there with what happened with New England and now going into the next season. My biggest L is going to go to the Tennessee Lady Volunteers. We'll talk about the SEC Championship in the tournament. They played the #1 seeded South Carolina, and in the last second, you leave Camila Cardosa in a wide open top of the key three-pointer in the last second to win it. I understand that Cardosa's not a three-point shooter. It was only her first attempt from beyond the arc in the season. You get it. She's not a three-point shooter, but in the final seconds, you can't leave anyone open like that. She was open by at least 15 feet, and gave South Carolina the win. They went to the SEC championship.
Yeah, the defense questionable, but the confidence to walk in there, rock up on your first three-pointer, and win the game for your team is commendable for sure. Unfortunately, my biggest L also stays in the world of women's college basketball. It's the next game, the SEC championship, South Carolina and LSU, that ended with, frankly, an embarrassing brawl. Multiple players will be suspended for the first round of the NCAA championships. And in a season where women's basketball has really come into its own, whether it's Caitlin Clark or Juju Watkins at USC, or even these two programs, LSU and South Carolina, really this is their chance to make an impression on the national sports stage. And instead of an impression, they made an embarrassment out of themselves. So, and unfortunately, back-to-back L's up here about women's college basketball in what should be their year. So that's, unfortunately, guys, my biggest L of the week.
And it's not just two random teams either. You're looking at two top teams, the former NCAA champions and the LSU Tigers. That's really tough. But we'll head to the break, but here's what's next on The Sideline.
It means a lot. It just means everything to us, for real. Like, we don't like him at all.
I don't.
The Panthers tried to hunt down the Owls in a rivalry series on the mound. And of course, we get in our picks for the next week of South Florida sports. Stick around. Sideline will take a quick timeout, but we'll be back after the break.
The Panthers took on the rival FAU Owls in a 3-game set this weekend on the Diamond.
Sideline Zeth Leon was there to call the balls and the strikes.
College rivalries mean a little bit more when they're in state. The FIU Panthers and the FAU Owls battled it out on the baseball field in a clash between two South Florida universities.
The series began on Friday and finished over the weekend with both squads showing out at home. Despite the teams no longer playing in the same conference, players and fans still understand what this game means. Two of FIU's football players who came out to support their fellow student athletes were able to give some insight into the rivalry.
It goes deep, and you know, it's just like the coaches kind of breed it in you, like, that's our rival, do not like them at all whatsoever.
It's deeply breeded into us. It's deeply, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it means a lot. It just means everything to us, for real. Like, we don't like him at all.
It was a hard-fought series as they split the first two games. Both teams traded wins while defending their home field. The Owls took the first game 4-1 before falling 7-4 to the Panthers at FIU.
It's always a fun time, whether it's an FAU win or an FIU win. So it's just something that it should be talked about more often.
FAU got the better of the Panthers, coming out on top 2-1. They would go on to dominate in the return to Boca as they beat FIU 24-2 in the final game of the series. The Panthers sit near the middle of Conference USA with a record of 9-7. Regardless of the outcome, FIU fans still believe in the future of the team.
It's really just one of those sports that 1 year can change the momentum. So I'm just hoping that we can get that going, because we have the potential down here to really be a baseball powerhouse.
FIU has some time off after wrapping up their 3-game series against the Owls. The Panthers play their next 4 games at home, starting with the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles on Wednesday. Reporting from FIU Baseball Stadium, I'm Zeth Leon for Kaplan News.
All right, Kenneth, it's time to look ahead at this week in South Florida sports and put our reputations on the line and make some game picks.
Oh, no.
So the first one this week, we're going to go to the ice. The Panthers are on the road for both games. They've got Dallas on the road and at Carolina, Eastern Conference Finals rematch against the Hurricanes. Who you got?
Well, honestly, the Panthers have been playing really well. Obviously, they're at the top of the Eastern Conference for a reason. I think they get this W against the Dallas Stars on Tuesday, but on Thursday, I mean, Carolina in their last matchup, it didn't go so well for them. The Hurricanes were able to stomp them in that game. So I'd say we go 1-1 on the split here.
I like it. I'm going to go ahead and say they win against Dallas, and I just think they lost against Carolina last time out, but they've added Tarasenko, and he is fit right in.
True.
Give me 2 wins out of 2 for the Panthers. All right, moving on to the court. The Miami Heat on a 3-game skid, Kenneth, and they got a tough customer up next. It's an NBA Finals rematch against the Denver's Nuggets, and then they kind of get a break. They go to Detroit and take on the Pistons. Who you got?
How about taking on one of the best teams in the NBA to one of the worst teams in the NBA? I think the Finals rematch will go great. I think they will have really competitive game. However, I don't see Miami scrapping out the victory. I think against Detroit, they'll probably take care of them on Friday because they took care of them a couple days ago, but they lost to the Wizards, so I don't know exactly what to say. I think they lose to Denver, but they take care of Detroit.
Tomfoolery basketball at its finest. And what a 3-game set, right? You go Wizards, Nuggets, Pistons. I think I'm in the same as you. I think they get blown out by the Nuggets, and then I think they take out all their frustrations on the Detroit Pistons.
They love the grind.
As everybody has been this season. All right, finally to the pitch. Inter Miami. Tough couple of losses. They've got Nashville SC in the league side, then CONCACAF Champions Cup. They got a round of 6-2. This is a round of 16, second leg. It's 2-2 on aggregate. You think the Herons find a way through?
I think so. I just have to hope that Lionel Messi shows up on the pitch again. Of course, he missed that last game, and they fell to Montreal CF. So I think as long as he returns, I believe that Inter Miami will have a decent shot to beat Nashville SC and go to the second round. How about we go for another Leagues Cup? That would be a lot of fun. Who do you think?
I'm not a mathematician, but it seems like a pretty simple formula to me. No Messi, no winning. If Messi doesn't play, they're not winning. So if Messi's not there, it's an L. If Messi's there, big W.
Just a reminder that if you want to keep up with the updates, fun segments, and more from our crew at the Sideline, you can follow our Instagram for all things Sideline. Follow us at sideline.caplin. Well, that would do it for us on the Sideline. I'm Kenneth Bueno.
And I'm Carlton Gillespie. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Sideline.